Hey friends, Rick Fuller here, and I've recently been asked, what's it like your first year in real estate? And that's a great question, and one that I think everybody has a different experience, but I'll tell you my experience. I had worked for well over 10 years for electronics retailer. I was one of their managers, managed multiple locations for them, and getting into real estate was just a very different experience. I had left a career of getting a paycheck every 2 weeks to a commission only environment. Looking back on it, that was over 20 years ago. I am so glad I did. It was a great decision, but it took some time to get used to it my first year. And the best way I can describe it is that in real estate, your first year, you don't know what you don't even know. You don't know what you don't even know. Let me give you a couple of examples. The first one is you don't know what to do. I remember showing up to the real estate office on Christmas Eve, and nobody was there. And people heard about it. And they said, "Why did you show up Christmas Eve?" Coming from retail, that's just what you do. You're always there Christmas Eve, the day after Christmas. That's just what you do. I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know. I thought, being in retail, that customers would just come to me. When I worked in retail, I would show up at the store and customers would begin to arrive as the doors were open. And in real estate, that's not always the case. You have to go out and find customers. And you didn't know, I didn't know that. So you didn't know what you didn't know. And I learned that I didn't know that there were a lot of distractions in real estate and so many things vying for your time and attention. And many of them can be a waste of time. If I had to do it all over again, I would absolutely do it. It turned out to be a great decision for me to be in real estate, but I would choose to be a man of very few priorities when it came to my business and my real estate business. And I would avoid the distractions and I wouldn't wait for people to come in. I would go find people that needed to have buying and selling type services. And if I were to do it all over again, there would be three things I'd focused on. The number one thing I would focus on by far in my very first year is finding new customers. When you've been in the business as long as I have, you have this real great, they have this great gift called returning clients. That these are clients that you helped 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, some cases 15 years ago. I've talked to people that I've helped over 20 years ago, and they're repeat clients and they come back. But your first year, you don't have that. So you got to go out and find clients. And you could do that through open houses. You can do that via social media. You can just do that by looking for people who need your services and paying close attention and being ready to offer those services to them. And we never believe in being salesy or high pressure. We just don't do that. We believe in serving, not selling. But number one, I would be actively looking for new customers. Here's number two, is I'd have a process, a simple process. I wouldn't need much more than a napkin, but I'd have a process to move customers that I find to clients and clients to contracts to closings and then closings to repeat customers. And I would just work that process. And I see so often new agents, they collect a business card, they write down somebody's name on a scratch piece of paper, and there's no process to follow up. And later on, they meet them and they say, "Oh yeah, I just bought a house," or "I just sold my house." And really, it was the agent's fault to not follow up. So the second thing I would do is I would have a simple process that moved my customers to clients and clients to contract and contract to close. And number three, the third thing I would do if I was starting all over again, knowing what I know now after 20 years of experience, I would make sure every customer, everyone I worked with, had the kind of experience they're excited to tell a friend about. I would try to do my best to do for others what I'd want done for myself. And I would simply make sure every customer had that kind of experience. Now, there's stuff that's out of your control. I get that. There are things that in real estate where you're working with others, inspectors and appraisers and title companies and lenders and buyers and sellers. And so there's not everything in your control, but the things that are within your control, I would make sure my clients had the kind of buying and selling experience that they were excited to tell a friend about. And I would not let one close until I've done everything in my on my part to make that happen. Uh, Real estate, especially your first year, is living a life of doing things, the unknown that you don't even know. And yet there's incredible opportunity. I think, the greatest industry on the planet. You have an opportunity to help people establish home. And I would be focused on those three things: generating customers, having a process to convert those customers, and making sure every one of those customers had the kind of buying and selling experience they're excited to tell a friend about. That would be my year one if I had to do it all over again. There'd be less uncertainty, there'd be more certainty. There'd be less lack of clarity, there'd be more clarity. And I think that if you were to follow that simple model, if you're interested in a career in real estate and this is your first year, you will find 10 years, 15, 20 years later that you'll be glad you did, that it was the way that you wanted to run your business. It will produce repeat clients, it will produce referrals, and it'll produce not just a great year, but a great career.